Good morning. Today I'm going to discuss my project Laparoscopic Uterosacral Ligament Suspension and Sacrospinous Ligament Fixation, Complications and Prolapse Recurrence Rate. Uterosacral ligament suspension and sacrospinous ligament fixation are methods to treat pelvic organ prolapse, and when performed vaginally, they both have similar 5-year recurrence rates. USLS can also be performed laparoscopically. The advantage of a laparoscopic approach include fully visualizing the ureter's course, thereby decreasing the rate of ureter kinking, and allowing a higher suspension due to fully visualizing the uterosacral ligaments. There are no cohort studies comparing perioperative complications or prolapse recurrence rates between laparoscopic USLS and SSLF. In our study, our primary objective was the rate of perioperative complications between laparoscopic USLS and SSLF. Our secondary objective was intraoperative outcomes between the two groups, as well as rate of recurrent prolapse. We defined recurrent prolapse as symptomatic pelvic organ prolapse or need for reoperation. This was a retrospective cohort study of 233 women who underwent laparoscopic USLS or SSLF between March 2017 and August 2019. Surgeries were performed at the University of Arizona, Tucson. We collected data on patient demographics, medical history, surgical data, complications, and postoperative recurrence of prolapse. For the statistical analysis, p-values were calculated from student t-test for continuous variables and chi-square for categorical variables. A p-value less than 0.05 was considered significant. There were no adjustments for multiple comparisons in this analysis. In total, 114 women underwent laparoscopic USLS and 119 women underwent SSLF. Baseline characteristics were similar between the groups with a few exceptions. Women in the SSLF group were older, more likely to be postmenopausal, have a prior hysterectomy, and have a prior surgery for pelvic organ prolapse. Baseline POP-Q stage was similar between the cohorts. In terms of our primary outcome of perioperative complications, not including urinary retention, the laparoscopic USLS group had a complication rate of 6.1% compared to 7.5% for the SSLF group. In the laparoscopic USLS group, there was 1 cystotomy, 1 ileus, 2 wound infections, 1 blood transfusion, 1 pelvic abscess, and 2 readmissions. In the SSLF group, there was 1 cystotomy, 1 bowel injury, 1 reoperation, 2 wound infections, 2 pelvic abscesses, and 2 readmissions. Next, operative data was analyzed. The operative time for the laparoscopic USLS group was longer, however the EBL and length of stay was shorter compared to the SSLF group. The SSLF group was more likely to require an anterior and posterior repair to achieve the surgeon's perception of success. And the laparoscopic USLS group had higher rates of concomitant hysterectomy. Finally, prolapse recurrence rate was analyzed. The average follow-up was 18 weeks. However, there was longer follow-up in the sacrospinous ligament fixation group. At last follow-up, 82% of the laparoscopic USLS and 84% of the SSLF group had POP-Q stage 0 or 1. The rate of recurrent prolapse, defined as symptomatic prolapse or need for reoperation, was similar between the two groups. In total, 5 patients in the laparoscopic USLS group and 8 in the SSLF group had symptomatic recurrence. There was no difference in POP-Q stage or site of recurrence between the two groups. The strength of the study includes well-defined intraoperative and postoperative outcomes, which were identified during the in-hospital period. In addition, in the laparoscopic USLS group, the same surgeon performed 90% of the procedures so the procedure was performed in the same fashion each time, which increases internal validity. The limitations of the study include its retrospective nature and the limited long-term follow-up of patients. In conclusion, our study shows the rate of perioperative complications in laparoscopic USLS is similar to that of SSLF. More patients in the SSLF group required anterior and posterior repair to achieve surgical success. Future research is warranted to determine the long-term outcome of laparoscopic USLS.